Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on estate planning. I am your personal family lawyer, Shilan Chen. I speak English and Chinese, and today's topic is about the essential estate planning tools that every family should have. If you want to listen to a Chinese version on this estate planning, you can subscribe to our channel. You can search the office of Shilan Chen or Shilan Chen ESQ. Then you can find another educational webinar on estate planning. I usually do bilingual versions of estate planning, and we are going to have a series of short video on why estate planning is so important and why everyone needs an estate planning. So let's jump into our today's topic, essential estate planning tools for every family. So why everyone needs an estate planning? Because if you own a house or you have minor kids, if you want to avoid probate, if you want to protect your minor kids, even if you want to avoid estate tax, you want to set up an asset protection strategy for your properties, for your assets and your kids, you need to know estate planning. So when I say estate planning, it's a comprehensive planning, not single one document. It's a comprehensive plan needed to have your family fully covered. So I always hear people talk about living trust. So yes, living trust is a very important legal document in your estate plan. But mere one document is not enough for your family to be fully covered. So let's take a look of the slides, and then I will introduce you the 5 essential legal documents in your estate plan. So first, let's talk about living trust. Yes, living trust is the most important document in your estate plan, but it's not enough. You should still have a will, and then a power of attorney, a healthcare directive, and HIPAA waiver. I will explain to you one-on-one in this video. So let's first talk about why I say everyone needs an estate plan. Because if you don't create a plan for yourself, then the government is going to apply your default plan to you and your family. So let's take a look of the recent celebrity story about their sad stories and why a plan is so important. So first, if you watch news, you may know the leading actor Chadwick Boseman in Black Panther. He just died at the age of 43 of cancer, and he has no plan at all. So what's going to happen to his family, to his assets? So if you don't have any plan, even a will in place, so your family or your creditors is going to petition the court to start a process called probate. And if you don't have any plan at all, it's called interstate succession, which means if you don't have your plan, then the court is going to look into your assets, and then according to the state law, the court will do by the law and then distribute assets to the person according to the state law. Of course, every state is different. So when you go back to the state law, is that what you want? No, we don't know. So, and another celebrity story is about Tony Xie. He is the CEO of an online shoe selling company called Zappos. So he just died at the age of 47 and he has no plan at all. And he is an entrepreneur. So he has a lot of assets, a lot of company, corporation, and limited liability company. And he also has a lot of intellectual property and a lot of debts. And he also invests a lot of lands in Wyoming. So his estate is going to be very complicated, and he has a lot of assets all over. So the first thing the court is going to do is to appoint executors. Some people call personal representative. Court will appoint these people to be responsible to have an asset inventory. So asset inventory is really, really important. All your assets is going to be highly related to your estate plan, your living trust. So when I consult with the client, when I help client set up their estate plan, I have a 3 process to help them set up and to help them fund their living trust. And the first step I'm going to have the client to be organized is their finance. Because first, if you don't organize during your lifetime, it's very difficult for your family to find out. And the second is, I'm going to talk more later, it's called a process called funding your trust. So that's why you need to have an asset inventory. It's so important because living trust is not just a legal document. So let's just take a look of what is the interstate succession. So the first process is called probate. It means when you die, it's a lawsuit you fight against yourself with your own money and for the benefit of your creditors, which means this process is not for the benefit of your family. So you can see this pipeline. So probate in California is very unfriendly, very long, and it's very expensive. And since probate process is for the benefit of your creditors, it's mandatory going to be a 4-month period to open for your potential creditor to claim their rights. So even if you talk to the judge that, we are simple, we don't have any creditor, you still need to go through this process. Remember, this is not for your family's benefits. So during this process, it's very long in California, at least 1 year. And it's a very simple probate. If you have a lot of assets, if you have disputes, it's going to be very long. It can be endless. So during this 1 or 2 year period, your families cannot access your assets. So think of the liquidity of your assets and the emergent fund for your family. So it's a very, very stressful process. And in California, probate is also very, very expensive because when you open a probate, so everybody can ask money by statute. So for example, for attorneys, by statute, they can charge you 1 to 5% of your total estate. And there is still a lot of executor's fee. And if you have real property, the court is going to appraise it. So there is going to be appraisal fee. And then your family may need to post a bond to the court if they want to be appointed as executor. So actually, this is a very expensive process in California. A very conservative estimation is probate is going to cost you 5% of your total estate. So think of if you have 2 million estate, you have to pay 100,000 for this unnecessary process. So that's why a lot of my clients, their primary goal to set up this this estate plan is to avoid probate. And also probate is a very public process. So when I talk about Tony Xie and Chadwick Boseman, I know clearly what's going to happen to their assets, what's court's action on their assets, because this process is totally public. So think of, I have a lot of family, they have young kids. Think of if you go through probate, your assets is going to be public. And if your kids are minor, everybody knows how much money your kids is going to get when reach 18. So think of in this era, there are so many risks. So a lot of family, for my clients, they don't like this process, and that's the incentive. They want to have a plan in place. And another big shortcomings about having no plan at all is when we talk about probate. Yes, even finally, the court decides the assets is going to distribute to your family. But if you have minor kids and you don't name any guardian, you don't have any living trust to set up steps to give money to your kids, then what's going to happen to your kids is the court is going to open another process called guardianship. If you have minor kids and you never name any legal guardian, the court will have to open another process called guardianship. And then they are going to appoint some other legal guardian for your kids. And how do they going to use your money to educate your kids on your kids? You don't know. You have no control at all. And the worst part is the court is going to supervise until your kids reach 18, because legally they are adults. Then the court is going to distribute all the money to your kids. So that's a scenario a lot of my young family clients want to avoid. So if you don't want this to happen to your kids, you need to have a plan in place. Okay, so after finishing the probate, and you need to set up a living trust. I just talked about this is a comprehensive plan to help your family fully covered. So I want to introduce another add-on plan for, I created this add-on plan called Kids Protection Plan. I really like this plan, and this plan is mainly for young families, which means your kids are under 18. For when we talk about kids protection plan, everybody think of guardian. But do you know there are two kinds of guardian, long-term guardian and short-term guardian? I will introduce you one by one. So for long-term guardians, this is a basic, fundamental, but most important first step for you to start protect your family. So when we set up living trust, it's for your assets. You don't want to go through probate, and you can decide how to distribute to your next generation. But if you have minor kids, you need to set up guardian besides living trust, because living trust is mainly for your assets. So the most important first step is to set up a long-term guardian. So what does long-term guardians mean? Like if your kids are just 4 until 18, the legal age to be adult, they are 14 years. So you have to name someone to take care of your kids for the long run. Some people call it a permanent guardian. So long-term guardian is the most important first step, because this is the person you choose to take care of your kids for a long period of time. And do you know, if you have minor kids and you don't name legal guardian for your own kids, then anyone can petition to the court to be the guardian. So do you like this kind of idea? Because this person never knows you and never knows your family dynamic and never knows your kids. So if you don't want this scenario, you need to name your legal guardian first. And don't leave this decision to a stranger. It's a judge decide for your kids' future. So I actually have a free resource for everyone who watches this video. At the end, I will give you a website. That's my website. And then you can create a free legal document to name long-term guardian for your kids. So this is the first part to protect your minor kids, naming your legal guardian today, okay? But it's not enough. You need another kind of guardian called short-term guardian. So why short-term guardian is so important? Because think of throughout United States, it's a very big country. I have a lot of clients, they have relatives, family members at another side of country, even overseas, because there are a lot of immigrant family here. So think of if you name like someone, we are in California, like you have a member lives in New York, you want to name them as a long-term guardian. That's totally fine. But think of when there is something happens to you, how could they be notified? How could they know? And then they need to fly to another end of country. This all takes time. But think of when there is something happen to you, and when police or social worker knock your door, and then they don't know who is the long-term guardian. And even they find out who is the long-term guardian, there is times when they can come and take over your kids. So there is a gap here. And if your kids are very little, guess what's going to happen to them? The police see your minor kids, they cannot be at home alone. So they are going to take your kids to your foster care. And so that's why, even if you name a long-term guardian, you need to name somebody local here to be your short-term guardian to cover this gap. So when there is really something happens to you, your kids still be taken care of and by someone you trust. So, like I said, especially everybody knows during this time, police also need something to protect them. They cannot give your kids to someone they don't know. So the best thing is the legal document, because you authorize, and then the police have something as a proof that they can leave the kids to someone with legal document. So what's the difference between long-term guardian legal and short-term guardian? First, it's just a short period of time. Especially I have a lot of clients, they are immigrants. They want to name their families overseas non-US citizen to be the long-term guardian. That's totally fine. But the guardianship is going to be very, very complicated and takes more time. So that's why if you are immigrant, if you don't have any family member local, you definitely will need to name a short-term guardian to cover the process, because there is going to be a lot of procedure your non-US citizen family member needs to do before they take over your kids. So short-term guardian is just take care of kids for a short period of time, and you need to name someone local to you. Don't name anybody lives far away from you. Otherwise, it's meaningless. So that could be someone, your babysitter, your friends, even your neighbors. If your kids are familiar with them, you can ask them to be your short-term guardian. It's not that much responsibility. And this is really, really important if you don't want your kids to be taken away by strangers, if you don't want your kids to be foster care. So that's why kids protection plan is so important, critically important for a lot of family if you don't have your families around you. Okay. Next, I want to talk about planning for incapacity. So when I create a plan, I say it's a comprehensive plan. It's not just for your death, but still for sometimes if you become incapacity. So incapacity is actually a very bigger issue along the time. Think of when we live longer, and then we have a lot of elder diseases like dementia, like Alzheimer. So even though your family's body is still very healthy, but they cannot decide for themselves. So usually it's family members to help them. But for financial institutes, you need to have a legal document, or otherwise they are not going to have their family access their money. So this is going to be a very, very big issue, and it's getting more and more complicated because financial institute has a lot of rules about this kind of authorization. So I always talk to my client in details how to do with financial advisor, but the financial institute, sorry, but the most important thing is you need to have a durable power of attorney and advanced healthcare directive. Because think of if you are ill, you want your family to pay your medical bill, then how can they access your account? So you need to have a durable power of attorney because it's a financial authorization for them to access your money. And there is also another very important document called Advanced Healthcare Directive, which means when you cannot decipher your own, you can still turn your wishes into directives. You can write down your wishes. You can appoint someone you trust to make decisions for you. But remember when I talk about the 5 essential documents, at first, there is something called HIPAA waiver. So now in California, because medical record is highly private, it doesn't mean your family, your son, your wife is automatically can access your medical records. So now in California, medical advanced healthcare directive needs to be hand in hand with HIPAA waiver. So your appointed healthcare agent can look up your medical records and make decisions for you. So as I said, incapacity is actually a very bigger issue along the way. And when we talk about probate, it's when you die. But if you are incapacitated and you don't have any plan at all, and I can tell you, mere will is not enough. You need to have a comprehensive plan. So when you are incapacitated, there is a court process called conservatorship. If you don't name someone, the court is going to decide for you. And conservatorship is actually a very intrusive process in my view. It's actually more intrusive and more stressful than probate, because which means someone you don't know is going to take over your life, take over your finance, and you cannot do anything for yourself. So I do recommend you to watch these two movies. Very interesting. I care a lot. It's a Netflix original movie. It's about this leading actress, this woman who is a legal guardian. Sometimes we call it legal conservator. She targets a lot of vulnerable elders, and if they have money and they don't have any plan, she just petition to the court to be appointed as a legal guardian. And this story is about how she target the vulnerable elders and then drain their money into her pocket. It's very intimidating, and I'm not saying all the professional or the legal guardians are bad, but this could happen. And actually in this country, there is no real mechanism you can really supervise this kind of legal guardian. And I can tell you, once the court appointed the legal conservator for you, it's very hard to challenge it. So there is another documentary called Free Britney. So Britney Spears is unlike the common scenario for incapacity for conservatorship. She is still very young, but 13 years ago, there is something happened. So her dad just petitioned the court and then to be the conservator of Britney Spears. It's so intrusive, and that's why Britney, after her father's be appointed as by the court as conservator, she just stopped all the shows, all the careers in entertainment. And it's been 13 years. She keeps fighting, keeps challenging court's decision, but it's really very hard to overthrow it. So up until now, it's been 13 years. Finally, her attorneys finally petitioned the court to appoint another professional as a conservator with her father. So if you want to still have a control, no matter what happens to you, you really need to have a plan in place. And let me talk about healthcare directive, because healthcare directive is so important. If you don't have it in place, if you want to live for your kids, decide for you, I can tell you it's always kids' decisions different from you. So if you want to decide for yourself, you need to have a healthcare directive and HIPAA waiver. And as I see, if you don't have healthcare directive, there's going to be high possibility that there is going to be conflicts between your family. And this is really unnecessary. Try to decide for yourself. Okay, so final things I want to advocate everybody is at first I talk about living trust. Your estate plan is not just a legal document. It's not something you sign and go or just put in your clothes and never look it again. It's really a mistake. So I always hear when someone already have a living trust, they still need to go through probate, because it's a very important process called funding your trust. So what is funding your trust? Think of if you don't have any plan, now you own all your assets under your personal name. So it's not going to avoid probate. And then when you set up, when you sign the legal document, the living trust, Do you think you already protected? No, because think of living trust, even you have it, it's like a treasure chest. Okay, so all your assets are still outside of your treasure chest. So if you really want to avoid probate, if you want to have your family protected, you need to put your assets into this treasure chest. So this process is called funding your trust. So if you own a property under your personal name and now you have a living trust, you want to be fully protected, you need to put into your living trust, which means you have to retitle your property from your personal name into the name of your living trust. And most of the people have other assets like bank account, investment account, something like that. You can change the owner to your living trust. And then for life insurance, there is beneficiary designation. So for life insurance, it's not change the owner of your insurance, but to change the beneficiary. So it's actually a very tricky process, but extremely important, because if you don't fund your trust, you cannot avoid probate, you cannot protect your family. So it's a very important process. And when I sign a document with my client, I will have another process to tell them how to fund their assets properly. And I give them paper instructions in case if they want to look up, they can always have a document at hand to look up to know what to do. And the most important thing is every client of me have a chance to have a free 5-year review. So during this 5-year review, the most important thing is I'm going to ask them, what's their assets currently? Do you really fund your living trust properly? So funding is actually an ongoing process. So that's why I designed the mechanism to serve my client in the long run. Or otherwise, a lot of clients just forget when they get new asset, they just forget there's something they need to do with their living trust. Okay, so this is just, I just finished the essential, the basic fundamental part of your estate plan. But a lot of people are worried about estate tax, especially now the Biden administration thinks it's very possible to increase the tax. So even in your fundamental living trust planning, you can have an estate tax planning. But if you are really ultra wealthy, you will need to other more advanced planning. But if you don't over too much, you can use your living trust. It's a very, very simple, efficient way to have estate tax planning. And I have a lot of clients, they just like the concept of asset protection, because when you do this living trust, we are going to talk about how you want to leave your inheritance to your kids. For minor kids, you can definitely set up different stages and to distribute to your kids at a responsible age. But now a lot of my clients, they really like the asset protection concept. And it doesn't mean they are very wealthy, because no matter you are wealthy or you are just middle class, you just want to make sure the money, your hardly earned money, can live to your kids no matter what happens to them. So that's a concept of asset protection, because nowadays there are so many uncertainties in our life. The number one uncertainty my parents client take into account is the marriage. So they don't want to be commingle and become community property. So they want to set up asset protection. And if they are doing business, you can still set up as a protection to prevent the creditor claims. So these are the advanced mechanism you can put into your living trust. Okay, so that's today's educational webinar, and I always encourage everybody to send their questions to me to info@slowservices.com, and please like or follow my Facebook page, because I will answer the question on my Facebook page. And I'm going to release a series of educational short video on the common questions that I've been asked on this YouTube channel. So please subscribe Law Office of Shilan Chen or Shilan Chen ESQ. We are going to release a series of short video. And as I mentioned today, as a gift for my audience, because the first most important step to take to protect your family is naming long-term guardian for your kids. So this is the website I have to provide free resource for parents to name long-term guardians for their kids. It's totally free. Please go on the website if you've never named legal guardian for your kids. And thank you. I appreciate your attendance and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.